If you are over 60, this message could literally change your health. Most older adults believe that consuming more kale is the smartest thing they can do to protect their heart, brain, and longevity. But what if I told you that some of the most common vegetables on your plate could silently increase your risk of stroke overnight? As a physician, I have treated too many elderly patients who thought they were doing everything right, eating clean, avoiding sugar, staying active, but still ended up struggling, suffering from a stroke or cognitive decline without warning. The truth is that some vegetables that seem healthy can interact with medications, raise blood pressure, inflame blood vessels, and increase the risk of clot formation, especially if eaten in the evening. The most frightening part is that most of these mistakes seem normal and are part of your routine, but they can silently harm what you cannot afford to lose: your brain. In the next few minutes, I will show you 5 vegetables that every older adult should think twice about, and what to eat instead to protect your mind, memory, and future. Kale. Kale is a hidden stroke trigger lurking in your salad. Most people over 60 consider kale to be one of the healthiest foods. It appears on every superfood list, in smoothies, salads, baked into chips, and is recommended everywhere. But as a doctor specializing in the brain, I am concerned about what I see in elderly patients. For many, especially those taking common heart medications, kale can silently increase the risk of stroke, sometimes overnight. The reason lies in one word: vitamin K. While vitamin K is important for blood clotting, it becomes a dangerous combination with blood-thinning medications such as warfarin, apixaban, or even aspirin. These medications are prescribed to prevent clots, but a large amount of kale suddenly flooding the body with vitamin K can neutralize their effect, which can lead to clot formation in the brain. And these clots do not give warnings. I remember a patient, 72 years old, who was very health conscious. He ate kale salad almost every night and prided himself on not eating fast food. But recently he was brought to the emergency room with slurred speech and weakness on one side. He had a mini stroke. Fortunately, he survived with mild symptoms, but upon reviewing his diet and medications, it became clear that his rich kale intake combined with a new blood-thinning medication created the perfect storm. He did not expect this, just like most older adults, because kale is promoted as a miracle food. But for aging blood vessels and medicated hearts, it can become a hidden threat. The horror is that this does not require months of accumulation. In some cases, just a few large servings in a week are enough to disrupt the balance of medications and trigger clot formation during sleep. You may wake up with a headache or not wake up at all. This does not mean that kale is poison, but if you are over 60, especially if you are taking medications for your heart or blood pressure, kale should be considered as a medicine with moderation, the right timing, and medical supervision. Eating it blindly just because it seems beneficial is like doubling the dose of pills without consulting a doctor. The risk is high, and the cost is not just mild discomfort, but your independence, memory, mobility, or even your life. Survivors of strokes often do not return to full functionality. One clot, one misstep, and everything changes. So before you toss another handful of kale into your dinner bowl, ask yourself, is it helping or harming? And remember, what is beneficial is not always safe. But kale is not the only hidden danger in your refrigerator. There is another popular drink that can be found in almost every kitchen of older adults. It fills the blood with sugar in the morning and puts the brain at risk even before the first bite. More on that later. If you are still watching and find the introduction helpful, please write one in the comments so I know you are with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. Spinach, a hidden risk for seniors with fragile arteries. We all grew up thinking that spinach is a smart and strong choice. Popeye made it a superfood, and in many ways it is, being rich in iron, magnesium, and antioxidants. But for people over 60, especially those with weakened circulation or on heart medications, spinach is not always the friend it seems to be. It can silently increase the risk of stroke, especially if consumed improperly and at the wrong times. The danger lies in two compounds: vitamins and oxalates. Like kale, spinach is full of vitamins that directly interfere with blood-thinning medications, such as warfarin or Eliquis, which many seniors take to prevent clots that can cause strokes. Increasing spinach consumption disrupts the delicate balance maintained by these medications, as if suddenly slamming on the brakes in a system designed for smooth blood flow to the brain. But few know that spinach is also rich in oxalates, natural compounds that can lead to crystal formation in the kidneys, reduce calcium absorption, and even irritate blood vessels when consumed excessively. For seniors with narrowed or constricted arteries, this creates an inflammatory environment in the body, and inflammation is a factor in strokes and vascular dementia. I will share the story of a 76-year-old patient living alone. For the past 2 months, she had been making green smoothies every morning, blending spinach with fruits, calling it a miracle breakfast. But she began experiencing dizziness, gaps in her short-term memory, and even falls in the bathroom. When she came to see me, her blood pressure was unusually high, and blood tests showed early signs of clotting stress. She was shocked, thinking she was doing everything right. In reality, her miracle drink was flooding her body with vitamins and oxalates too much, too quickly, and too often. This is how it happens. Quietly, without a sound, with a salad, several good decisions repeated daily, until the brain pays the price. Stroke can take away speech, balance, independence, and sometimes life. The cost of not knowing this risk is a month of rehabilitation, forgetting the names of grandchildren, living with what could have been prevented. Spinach can be part of a healthy diet, but for the elderly, it needs to be cooked, portioned, and timed carefully. Discussing with a doctor if you are taking medications that affect the blood. Eating it blindly is like playing roulette with the brain. But if you think that the story ends with spinach, think again. There is another common vegetable in soups, stews, and side dishes across America that contains a natural toxin, which can silently raise blood pressure several hours after dinner. This is worth knowing. Bamboo shoots. Bamboo shoots. A useful side dish that can poison your brain. Most people do not suspect that a simple side dish can pose a serious neurological risk. Bamboo shoots, often found in stir-fries, soups, or healthy Asian dishes, seem like an innocent addition to the plate. Low in calories, crunchy, and rich in fiber, they are considered clean food. But if you are over 60, especially with a history of heart disease, high blood pressure, or kidney issues, this news may do more harm than good, and you may not realize it until it is too late. The hidden danger in bamboo shoots is the price of cyanogenic glycosides. Yes, bamboo contains compounds that can turn into cyanide in the body if not prepared properly. In small, unnoticed doses, these toxins may not send you to the emergency room, but they can slowly damage the central nervous system. Especially if the body is already struggling with detoxification due to age, medications, or reduced organ function, I treated a 74-year-old patient who started adding canned bamboo shoots to soups, thinking he was eating light. After a few weeks, he began experiencing brain fog, dizziness, and persistent fatigue that seemed to come out of nowhere. His daughter reported that he was repeating himself and forgetting appointments. Tests showed nothing serious on scans, but his blood pressure was elevated and his oxygen saturation was slightly low. The key was found when we examined his diet. His daily consumption of bamboo shoots, some fresh, some from poorly drained cans, was quietly loading his body with low doses of toxins. I will never forget a 69-year-old patient who came to me with a tremor in her hands when pouring coffee and worsening short-term memory. She exercised daily, primarily ate vegetarian, and her blood pressure was under control. But after a week of worsening symptoms, we traced the cause to her new passion for fried eggplant. She loved them and ate them 5 evenings a week. Tests showed elevated markers of inflammation. Her blood vessels were not functioning as they should. She exhibited early signs of microvascular ischemia. This condition occurs when the small blood vessels in the brain become too narrow or damaged to deliver sufficient oxygen. The breaking point: a beneficial vegetable consumed in excess, cooked in fat, and eaten without understanding its profound impact. Fortunately, we caught it early, adjusted her diet, and her symptoms improved. But many are not so lucky. They go to bed after a light vegetable meal and wake up with a stroke, or do not wake up at all. Eggplant is not toxic, but it is not neutral either, especially for an aging brain. If you eat it more than twice a week, particularly fried or stewed in oil, it is time to reconsider. Your brain deserves better fuel. But there is another vegetable I need to mention. Salty and crunchy, often found on the dining tables of older Americans, it is praised for aiding digestion, but it raises blood pressure, expands arteries, and can trigger a stroke in one's sleep. Pay special attention to this. Pickled vegetables, preserved vegetables, the salty habit, subtly damaging your brain. There is something comforting about pickled vegetables. They remind us of family dinners, old recipes, and times when even spirits were preserved in jars, stored in freezers. For many older individuals, a little sauerkraut, pickled cabbage, or cucumbers on the plate is an innocent tradition. But for an aging brain, this habit can quietly trigger a chain reaction that ends in a hospital bed, or worse. Most older adults do not realize that pickled vegetables, especially store-bought ones, are full of sodium. It is not just a pinch. One small serving can contain from 600 to 1,000 milligrams of salt. For those over 60, this can raise blood pressure within hours, make the fragile arteries supplying the brain stiff, and increase the risk of hypertensive stroke, particularly in the early morning hours when blood pressure naturally spikes. And it is not just about the salt. Many pickled vegetables, especially if not properly prepared at home, contain nitrates, sulfites, and preservatives that act as low-level toxins for the vascular system. These compounds increase oxidative stress, contribute to vascular inflammation, and over time make the walls of the blood vessels more fragile, ready to rupture or become blocked. I will tell you about a patient, 73 years old, who ate a small bowl of pickled vegetables with dinner every night. "It helps with digestion," he said with a smile. But over time, he noticed morning headaches, ringing in his ears, and strange pressure behind his eyes. Then one morning, he collapsed in the garage. A stroke, minor, but enough to weaken his right arm and cloud his vision for a week. When we examined his diet, the amount of salt from the nightly pickles was shocking. He had no idea. "I thought it was just a side dish," he said, his eyes wide with disbelief. The truth is that strokes are not always caused by big things. Sometimes it is the small, repetitive habits that harden your arteries day by day, until one night the suffocation suddenly strikes and something breaks. The body does not forgive. Once the blood vessels burst or become clogged, the damage can be instantaneous and irreversible. You risk not just pain, but losing the ability to speak, walk, or recognize loved ones. You risk losing yourself. If you love spicy pickled foods, it is not necessary to completely give them up. However, they should be a rare treat, not a daily ritual. And if you already have high blood pressure, kidney disease, or are taking medications for heart health, they may need to be completely eliminated. But salt is not the only hidden danger that older adults consume daily. One of the most common questions I hear from elderly patients is, what should I eat instead? There are brain-safe vegetables that are nutritious, low risk, and proven to support circulation. In the next section, I will show you exactly which ones and how to make them a part of your routine starting tomorrow. After hearing about all the vegetables that can harm your brain as you age, it is natural to feel overwhelmed, even betrayed, as you have been trying to eat healthily. But sometimes, foods that worked in your 40s or 50s turn against us in our 60s, 70s, and beyond. The truth is that aging bodies and brains need different things, and if we do not adapt to them, the consequences can be devastating. But here's the good news. There are vegetables that nourish the brain, support blood flow, and reduce the risk of stroke if chosen and prepared correctly. These are not exotic superfoods, but simple, humble, often underrated options. For older adults, they can mean the difference between a healthy tomorrow and a life-altering stroke. I will tell you about a 68-year-old patient who came to me after her sister suffered a major stroke. She was terrified that this could happen to her. She had been eating healthily, lots of kale, spinach smoothies, and roasted eggplant, as recommended by health articles. But her blood pressure was slowly rising. Her memory was starting to fail, and her legs felt heavier every morning. After reviewing her tests, medications, and lifestyle, I gave her one piece of advice: change the vegetables. We replaced the high-risk ones with low-inflammatory, brain-friendly options. Within 2 months, she felt sharper, more energetic, and her doctor began to reduce her medications. I had no idea food could have such an impact, she said with tears in her eyes. Here is what I advised her to eat. First, steamed carrots. Rich in antioxidants, especially beta-carotene, carrots protect the small blood vessels in the brain from oxidative stress. They are easily digestible and do not raise blood pressure. Second, baked or boiled sweet potatoes. A source of potassium and fiber, potassium balances sodium, lowers blood pressure, and supports gentle circulation in aging arteries. Third, cucumbers, cooling, hydrating, and low in sodium. They are excellent for flushing out toxins and improving blood viscosity. Leave the skin on for added fiber. 4. Green beans, often underestimated, but very gentle on digestion, with low levels of oxalates and a wealth of magnesium and folate. Important for brain function. 5. Cooked zucchini, soft on the intestines, rich in water, versatile. Helps reduce bloating and maintains electrolyte balance, which is critical for the elderly on blood pressure medications. These vegetables may be unassuming, but for an aging brain, they are safe, resilient, and nourishing. They do not conflict with your medications, do not inflame blood vessels, but simply nourish and protect as food should. Do not let age be a silent thief of your independence. Do not wait for signals in the form of memory lapses, slurred speech, or sudden falls. Prevention does not have to be complicated, just consistent, thoughtful, and based on the truth of what your body needs right now. This brings us to the final truth I must share, tying everything together. The most dangerous thing on your plate is not the vegetables, but the daily habit you repeat without realizing it, and the damage it causes behind the scenes. Let me show you what this habit is and how to break it before it breaks you. Brain-saving habits start at your table. If you have made it this far, you already know the truth that most learn too late. The greatest threat to your brain is not always genetics, age, or even disease. It is the quiet, everyday habits, especially those we consider healthy, that either protect or destroy the brain over time. The vegetables we discussed: kale, spinach, bamboo shoots, eggplant, pickled greens are low in calories but not innocent. For those over 60, 70, or 80, especially with high blood pressure, atrial fibrillation, or memory issues, these foods can be like playing Russian roulette with your brain. You do not need to fear food, but you must respect the new limits of your body and learn what it truly needs. At this stage of life, you have more power than you think. You can choose foods that soothe circulation, protect arteries, and support mental clarity, while avoiding those that subtly increase the risk of stroke, inflammation, or cognitive decline. I have seen too many patients come to me after damage has already been done. Speech has faded, memory is waning, independence is lost. But I have also seen many who regained control through small changes they felt within weeks. Let today be a turning point. Start with your plate. Listen to your body. Rethink what healthy means for you now, not 20 years ago. Brain protection happens not in the hospital, but at your dining table. Every bite is a step toward clarity or closer to the silence of a stroke. You choose, starting today. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now I would like to hear from you. Think and share one thing you have learned and plan to apply in your life. Let us support each other on this journey towards accepting these truths. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment with 1. If not, write 0. Your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for watching. And here's to living life on your own terms.